And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Live Before Lock Show. It is Friday, September 8th. Thanks for joining us if you're here on a Friday now that the NFL season has started. You are one of the true fans of this show. My name's Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Matt Belman. We're brought to you by OwnersBox. We've got an 11-game slate ahead of us. I actually like it. It's very balanced. We don't have a Cincinnati game. We don't have a Coors game. The Braves don't have a 90-run implied total that's changing everything. It's pretty flat across the board, and those are the slates that I like. So I hope you guys like it as well. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. You can see our Twitter handles. Oh, I guess I should call it X handles. I'm never going to do that. You'll always know what Twitter means. Follow us on Twitter. Matt, what's going on?
Nothing, man. Excited to get on here with you Friday evening. Like you said, if you're watching this show still, you're a trooper. You're obviously committed to MLB DFS here for the cause. So excited to break this down with you.
It's a good one. I ripped through it earlier today for the strategy show, got my contenders out, figured out what my issue is with Kyle Harrison. We've made great progress throughout today, but we're going to break down some pitchers. We're going to break down all of the stacks. We'll take some questions. We're going to be a little loosey-goosey on this one today. I am producing. Not that that changes anything for anybody else on the back end, but I'm ready to just shoot the shit, talk some baseball on a Friday. Look, behind the virtual glass here, we're probably not going to have as many people as we normally do because it's baseball on a Friday and there's football coming up. But I still love it. I'm enjoying this baseball season. We still have 50K up top on DraftKings, so I'm ready to go. I thought it was going to be a lot worse yesterday. It was still 25, luckily, but I thought we were going to get like 10. It's going to be bad.
Yesterday was pretty weak.
I'll take 25K in the relay throw. I thought it was going to be 10. So
that's fair. Basically, every other contest though was shrunken so small that it filled a couple hours before lock. That was the only one that that was probably played right by them. I don't think they needed to shrink the other ones so much, but it is what it is.
Cantor in the house. Josh on a Friday. Now I know y'all tripping. I just watched This Is the End recently. I can't say that line from This Is the End on here, but James Franco didn't today. Yeah, exactly. Einsteinium, are you still under on Harrison? No, I am not. So I'll talk through this for the people that were watching the strategy show this morning. I could not figure out why I was projecting Kyle Harrison so poorly. And I haven't gotten to him for like the past 2 or 3 games. I just didn't pay attention because he's young. And I just figured that was like the perils of steam. Well, I was not correct. Apparently, I had the wrong Fangraphs ID coded into my sheet. So everything that I saw on the screen that explained him was correct. Everything that was being calculated on the back end was a different person entirely. So once I corrected that, I started projecting his strikeouts correctly. And now I have him as like the best guy you can get to today. So everything has changed. If everybody's curious, because you guys watch these shows, you've seen me here for a long time. Now that I have Kyle Harrison, you should go out of your way to roster the Rockies in San Francisco today, because Kyle Harrison, because of me, is going to get tattooed tonight. Be ready for it.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit beforehand. We're both on the same page there. I am getting to him a lot tonight, more than I originally thought I was, because when I first started building lines, I was interested in getting to a little Blake Snell. I just think the other guys, like not even around him, cheaper than him, project as good, if not better than him. So just really hard to get to Snell tonight, who happens to be the most expensive pitcher on the slate.
The boy from Cali wants to know if my pink shirt is the lucky charm tonight. I certainly hope so. Be nice. Giants Gaming wants to know if we're going to have awful contests on Sunday. For baseball?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you're trying to play baseball to hit anything, I'll be surprised. Though maybe there's one contest that has a 5-figure top prize, but it is going to be very minimal. The only 5-figure top prize might be like a $5,000 head-to-head.
Yeah, though I'm thinking I agree with you. I think they'll have one 5-figure GPP.
I'm hoping that it's somewhere north of 10, because I'd like to play baseball on Sunday. I think
it will be 10.
Idea. But I'm not confident.
It might be 25 though.
I hope if it's 25, I'll be pumped. I won't even care about football. The only
It will
football
be-
that I care about on Sunday anyway is at OwnersBox, which we'll touch on later.
I think it'll definitely be somewhere between 10 and 25, but I guess we will see. And yeah, I am ready to talk out this slate. Where do you want to start?
Okay, let's start with a couple of the guys that are pulling the ownership first. Let me get your perspective on those guys. And we'll start leading off with Yusei Kikuchi, 37.5% owned on our last ownership run. That is the high mark for today. Kikuchi is at home, taking on the Royals. Bullpen-ish game for Kansas City. Allegedly, Alec Marsh coming in after some other guy that doesn't matter at all, which doesn't really matter for Kikuchi. How do you feel about $8,200 Kikuchi being the chalkiest pitcher of the day?
Not great about it, but I understand it just because of his price tag. Like, he's too cheap for who he is. Surprised that he's pulling this much ownership because the field is usually a little bit hesitant to get to him. They're clearly not today. He's over-owned given like our tools and given his, percent, given everything about this slate, he's over-owned, but does that really matter? Not so sure. So many different ways to get different, excuse me for using that word twice. And on this slate, you got tons of different bats. So I think Kikuchi, you're fine using him, knowing that he's like over-owned. I don't think there's a problem getting to him though.
I think today is a good day for the term getting different because I don't think any of the extremes and like 30% or whatever. It's high, but it's not extreme. We don't have extremes on the hitting side or anything like that. So I think it is a really good day to think about the pivots because I think there's a lot of options and separation. So use that word up. I think it's a great idea. Look, 26% K rate to lefties, 25 to righties. There's some potential here for sure. I don't love the Royals lineup for him though. Garcia and Witt don't really strike out all that much. And I think that's really important for ceiling type games. When you have the first hitter and the second hitter in a lineup that aren't really big strikeout guys, that's incredibly limiting to the overall strikeout upside for Kikuchi. If he's, 25, 30% owned, it's a different conversation. As the 38% owned chalk dude for today, I have 11%. I think he's in a great spot. I wouldn't hesitate to use him in a cash game, but that just seems like too much ownership for the range. I don't see him and Logan Allen as all that separate, like all that different for today, like raw projection type stuff. And we're talking about 18% more of ownership for Kikuchi in comparison to Allen. I don't see that much separation. So it's easy for me to just offload a little bit of Kikuchi to Allen, to Bryce Elder, who already has it. I like a little bit of Griffin Canning, but that whole mid tier, I don't really want to load up on anybody.
So that's fair. I get that. I would counter that with and come back to you with a couple things. One, as you first stated, it might be a good day to get different in the regard that, the medium plays don't really look that much different from the good plays, et cetera, et cetera. I would say that, the ownership on Kikuchi maybe isn't too high where you necessarily need to worry about that, knowing that he's over-owned. My biggest counterpoint would be like the bat has him as the highest projected pitcher on the slate. Not using him because of that, but like he's 8,200 and clearly the projection systems like him,
To me, that's a preposterous projection. I saw it earlier too. Let me look quickly. I wonder if the issue is what I think it is. Okay, so Cardi's got him at 17.5 outs for today, which, it is a projection that is out there. But if you pull up the props for today, and I don't like necessarily just immediately going to a prop line, but his prop line for outs is 15.5 with very light shading to the over. I put him in for 16.5 outs. So I took a full out off of that projection from Cardi, which is probably, that's going to be like a half fantasy point to a fantasy point. It's going to bring him down a little bit. I've got him projected for 17.2. I have him as the third highest projection on the slate, 1/10 of a point ahead of Senga, but I have Montgomery and Harrison ahead of him.
I don't disagree with that. And I don't agree. Like if I were making my own projections, I doubt he'd be the highest scoring pitcher on the slate.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need to be at 8,200. So like, even if, the projection is slightly wrong, and I tend to think you're right on that, like still not too worried about it. There is blow up concern with Kikuchi. Like he's been known to give up home runs, especially in the past. Been pretty good this year about that. Again, I think he's over-owned and you don't have to go there. There just aren't that many pitchers on this slate that I like better than him. Although I do agree with you that a guy like Logan Allen at half the ownership is intriguing.
So I'm pulling it up now because I wanted to check it out quickly, and we could touch on Logan Allen and those types in a little bit. The Blue Jays park used to play up aggressively for righty power. This year it's been neutral. 98 is the park factor, but they made some wall changes or whatever. But at the very least, righty power, neutral in Toronto, neutral as a run scoring park as well. Kikuchi this year, 190x ISO to righties. We're talking about 7 righties in the Royals lineup. Certainly, it's not like Garcia's got pop, but Bobby Witt obviously does. Salvador Perez as a righty obviously does. Nelson Velasquez projects with a 196 ISO and steamer. Freddie Vermeen has a 184. There's a couple guys that can do some damage to Kikuchi here in a park that doesn't necessarily limit that sort of problem. Lefty power dies in Toronto. Righty power, not so much. So I'm happy to be a little bit lighter. But if I were playing a cash game, I would imagine Kikuchi is the first name I click on.
I didn't even realize our tools, just looking at projections, have him as the second highest scoring pitcher on the slate.
Who do we have him behind, Harrison or Montgomery?
Neither. Senga. Montgomery is right behind Snell, which I think is really surprising.
I think that's a testament to today's slate because it seems like everybody's just sort of all over the map.
Agreed.
We have Senga at the top. I have Senga at 17.1. I have Senga just like Allen and just like Kikuchi, but obviously quite a bit more expensive.
I think that point is, it was well said when you talked about that out or an out and a half mattering a lot in the projection, because a half a point to a point is it makes a guy go from the second best pitcher to the seventh best pitcher real quick.
That's funny because I'm heavier on outs than the bat is with Senga by like an extra out, but I only have 10% Senga. I'm lighter on him too.
Interesting.
Okay, so do we want to have the Blake Snell conversation?
Yeah, let's do it. It's just,
It's
a really intriguing talking point, if nothing else.
It is. So he's unowned. He's at 2.1% ownership. I only got to 3. We have him 15% to be a top 2 pitcher. This is probably a larger field issue. It's Snell, I guess. So you are getting a ceiling if you wanted to go to him in a different format. Talk to me about what you want to do here with Snell. Clearly a terrible matchup against Houston, but an unowned potential Cy Young with a massive strikeout rate is at least intriguing to me.
I agree. I do think everything that we say about Snell also applies to the Houston side. Just more rare to get a pitcher like this getting like 0 ownership. Again, we think it might be a little bit higher than the 2% we have projected for, but either way, it's not going to be over 10. There's no chance. He's going to be one of the lower owned, probably the lowest owned high end pitcher on the slate. When you get a guy with his upside and his pedigree, arguably probably the best pitcher on the slate, best strikeout pitcher, etc. That is really intriguing. But this matchup is not just a bad matchup. It's probably the worst matchup in the league for him. Yeah. Houston doesn't strike out. They walk a ton. Snell, we know, has a really, really high walk rate. He'll end up throwing a lot of pitches. His ceiling is what makes him intriguing here. But as we talked about before, I'm just not sure how often he gets there in this spot. Another thing, I'm not playing Snell because of this, but Cardi has him projected right behind Severino, and he's double the price. So again, that says a lot. You know what I mean? So it's hard to play a guy in such a tough matchup when he's also the most expensive pitcher on the slate.
It's one of those, it's a weird situation because if you just rely on the raw data, if you start looking at top pitchers tools, if he's 15% to be a top 2 pitcher, you should be getting him more than 2%.
Yes.
You'll feel good about that. But you're going to fail here a lot because of his price tag. You're just going to have guys that have comparable performances that are $1,000, $2,000 cheaper. And you got to really hope that those cheap bats go off once you take Blake Snell. I wish I had a little bit more. I think on paper, he's a little underrepresented. And there's just so much upside, but Altuve, Pena, Bregman, Tucker, even Diaz, these guys just don't strike out ever. And that becomes a gigantic problem. I'm very interested in Snell, but I can't really justify a mass amount of him.
Snell is pretty good he's pretty good to great against everyone,
Yeah.
But if you do start looking at his game log and stuff, the comparable teams to Houston, the Dodgers and the Jays, he did not have great performances there, at least not for a 10-8 price tag, certainly not against Toronto, which is an offense that's not even as good as Houston. So Snell is not impervious to getting hit. He's a great DFS pitcher because he strikes out a ton of guys and he's in great form right now. I don't expect Houston to get to him here. I'd rather get to Snell than the Houston side. It's
Same.
it's so hard to actually get to him tonight.
So who do we want to get to? Who haven't we talked about yet? Who are the names that stand out most to you on this slate?
Well,
I hope we don't talk about the guy that I have.
We talked about Harrison already. The guy that I have that I like, that I don't really know why I like him so much, is Montgomery. Just feels like such a good spot for him against Oakland. He doesn't have the highest strikeout stuff, but Texas also has been using their bullpen a ton. Even Scherzer got lit up the other day in their last start. They need innings here from Montgomery. I think as long as he's not getting lit up, which I don't expect him to here, he's going to have a long leash, which matters. He's pricey, but there isn't a ton of opportunity cost around him. Right. So I view him, Harrison, and Kikuchi as, my top 3 pitchers on the slate. You talked about Harrison already. Just such a good matchup, good ballpark, all the above. Senga is really interesting, given our projection, our tools. I think him and Snell look like really good tournament options. Senga because, I expect him to pitch well here. Snell because he's unknown.
Yeah, a bunch of strikeouts in that Twins lineup too for Senga. So I don't mind the spot at all for him. I do prefer Montgomery to Senga. It just feels a little bit safer. I get to face the A's. I'm in. There's some righty power in the A's lineup that can do some damage today for sure. But 3.5 run implied total for Oakland.
I got to ask you on this, while you're talking about it, because you and Adam, I've heard you talk about this for years on shows. So I want to ask you about this because I view it the same exact way. When I look at Montgomery against Oakland, just feel safer about it. Snell's against Houston, etc. Adam would always counter and argue and say, safety in baseball does not come from the matchup. It comes from the strikeout upside. So where's the balance? And I'm not asking you, exactly where that is, but just putting it out there.
So I think there's strikeout upside here for Montgomery too. I got him projected for 5.7. I've got the strikeout rate for the A's today at 25%. Zach Geloff projects with a 29% K rate to lefties via steamer. Brent Rooker's at 30 and Ryan Noda's at 35. That's 1, 2, 3 in the Oakland lineup. That is so much different than what I was talking about before with the strikeout rates in the teens. So I like the top of the order here for is Montgomery a dealer? No, at all. He strikes out guys at a league average rate, but I love the top of the order for him. Those are the guys that he's going to see those extra times, and those are the potential extra strikeouts. For those 3 guys, you're expecting 1 strikeout between the 3 for every single time that he faces that group of 3 dudes. So I like that little setup for him. Do I wish this game was in Oakland? Yeah, he would look even better here, but he's 23% owned. I have 26%. He's my 3rd most exposed pitcher right now behind Harrison and someone I don't want.
So I'm trying to think about who this other guy that you don't want is that you're getting to. You mentioned Elder a little bit. Well, the guy's getting ownership. Kikuchi, Harrison, Montgomery, Logan Allen, who we talked about a little bit.
Yeah. You're not in the right ballpark.
Okay, Severino.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously.
I don't know. I don't know what he is anymore.
I mean, but that's baked into his price, right? He's 5,500 against a mediocre offense. Again, he could easily get smashed here. I don't think you're crazy to play Milwaukee bats in this spot, but like I just said, I mean, the bat has him projected higher than Snell, so I get it.
So do I. I don't agree with it, but at the same time, I don't. I talked about. I had to dig into this one on the strategy show earlier today because it was the same situation or comparable situation to Rodon from yesterday, where it's just this dude is so wildly different this season than he has been in the past. But I don't personally think that I have actionable information to make a change to a projection system. The moment I start doing that, then I have to do it to everybody. And there are going to be a lot of dudes that look like they're dog shit like Rodon has recently. And then he's just going to turn it back on and just become himself again because we have that giant sample. I don't know how to project Severino right now, but if I use the current Steamer projections, he looks awesome at 5,500. And maybe he's just awesome at 5,500. I don't like it at all. It terrifies me. 33% of my lineups have Luis Severino in it, and he's never been worse than he is right now.
He just stands out in that price range because honestly, like no one else down there is even in play really at all. So if you need a cheap guy, he's the guy.
It's so brutal. It's so brutal. I mean, I have 11% of Colin Ray on the opposite side. So if you really want garbage, this is the game to get it, I guess.
I mean, if you're just looking at the tools like we talked about before, Ray looks like one of the best leverage plays on the slate, like right behind Snell. Looks like an infinitely better play than Severino. Higher in the top pitcher tool, getting 1/10 of the ownership. So,
yep.
Like
yeah, 11% of Colin Ray.
Yeah, like the Yankees could easily smash him here, but
yeah,
there's no cheap pitching to like. Sure.
Yeah, no, it's there's not a lot at the bottom. Like I like Mackenzie Gore as a pitcher. I don't care for him in this particular matchup, but he's better than a $7,200 guy, generally speaking. But do you want Dallas Keuchel, Ty Block, Alec Marsh if he shows up? Like it's pretty gross at the bottom.
Yeah, Gore's easily the best pitcher, but again, it's against the Dodgers. If you were facing anyone else, he'd probably be the guy. Just not in this spot. So
no.
I don't know. And the Yankees, I don't know. I'm just thinking about what you said. Like, yeah, they probably do smash Rhea, but I don't know. They're like middle of the pack in our top stack tool. Like, yeah. I don't really have much interest in them. So I get the Rhea play.
A lot of strikeouts in that Yankees lineup. DJ LeMahieu has an 18% K rate. Torres is at 18. Everybody else is 23 or higher. And obviously like Bowers and Dominguez and Judge are going to have a couple Ks on their belts by the end of the day.
It's hard to like think about this, but the Yankees
have the all the lineups. Same... We only need the Giants lineup, by the way, just for anybody that's curious.
The Yankees have the exact same top stack percentage as the Astros, like exactly the same. So
let's see where
that's just really interesting.
I have them as basically the same. I have the Yankees at 3.4%. I have the Astros at 3.9. So 12th and
tells you how good Houston is.
Yep. Yeah, for real. Yeah, their implied total is 4.6 runs against Snell. I think that's a pretty good testament of just like, we know how good Snell is, but this Astros team is uniquely set up to be a real big problem for him.
Yeah, 100%. The problem with Houston, they're the most expensive team on DK. So yeah. It's one of those spots where hopefully Snell just has a medium game and Houston doesn't do much, which honestly is, if I had to bet on one outcome, that would be it.
Do you have any other pitchers that you have your eye on that we haven't really touched on?
I don't think Griffin Canning is crazy because he's also in good form. Our top pitcher tool likes him. Cleveland doesn't strike out, though. Ballpark upgrade for Cleveland. So, I mean, he's a guy that I think is fine to play, but I'm not like excited about it. And I think it's a pretty big drop down from the top guys.
Okay. Well, appreciate you guys being here. 550 people in the house right now. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet, because now is the time for me to talk a little bit about OwnersBox. I've got it pulled up on the screen right now. We need to dig into this, folks. I've been talking about it a lot, but I'm not going to shut up about it until Sunday. If you guys don't do this, you are hurting yourselves. First and foremost, let's do this. Click the link in the description of this video to go sign up for OwnersBox. Here is what you're going to get when you do that. You need to deposit at least $10. That's going to unlock for you 1 month of our NFL Sims Max package. So right away, you're getting a $200 value on that deposit. My recommendation is to put in more than $10 because they are going to match your first deposit up to $500. You put in $500, you get another $500. Great way to start off from a bankroll perspective. But this is the key piece. I assume most people watching this show are at least a little bit interested in the NFL and are probably going to dip their toe into the NFL DFS waters this coming Sunday. And a lot of people, most, are going to run to DraftKings because they've got the biggest contests. That's probably not the best idea for you. The $200 kickoff that I have on the screen right now, $50K to first, 16,000 entries. There are 1,500 in right now. My expectation is that this contest is going to overlay and probably by a decent amount. At the very least, I expect reduced rake in this contest. I don't think you will find a better NFL contest anywhere in the industry than the one that I'm talking about right now. If you just want to win more money, this is the best thing you'll ever get into. Week 1 NFL contests are the place to try to hunt this stuff down, and it's not going to be better anywhere else. Oh, by the way, when you sign up and you're getting that Sims package, you can use the Sims for OwnersBox. It's all right there. A couple button clicks, and you're going to have whatever amount of lineups that you want to load into OwnersBox. The stochastic people are going to be uniquely set up to destroy this contest. If we don't have the logo that's in first at the end, I'm going to be very disappointed. Now, I hope that it's me personally. We'll see if it ends up happening. But I'm telling you guys, this has nothing to do with me. This is a logic play for everybody that's listening. You get up to $500 of bonus cash on your first deposit, a $200 value of our Sims package, and access to the best contest that will exist in 2 days. Don't sleep on this. Don't just throw random entries into other contests on other sites. Put them here. It's the best value you will get on your dollar. Got to do it sometimes, man. Got to let the people know.
I don't think I know. Who's your NFL squad?
Technically, I am a Schmerz fan. But go Commanders, I guess. I don't actually care anymore.
That's fair.
I grew up aggressively a former Washington Redskins fan. And then I'd say probably around 2013, 2014, or around when I got married, I just stopped watching the NFL like that. And I became way more interested in following the NBA. So I made that switch. But I guess I want them to win. I mean, I'm definitely more interested now that Snyder sold the team because he was a general piece of shit for a while. But in the grand, if they played in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't care.
Right.
I wouldn't be
sure.
patting myself on the back or being like, yeah, my team did it. I don't have that. I didn't do it for the Braves, and I actually care about them. But
fair.
Yeah. What about you?
Browns.
Yeah.
I mean, they left for a while when I was growing up, which sucked.
Yeah. I didn't know if you I didn't know specifically where you you could have been, we were on the other side. I actually like the Steelers or something.
No, yeah, there definitely are those people. I'm not one of them. Growing up, Browns fan. My dad is a big Browns fan.
Yeah.
Growing up going to games. My dad is one of those old Browns fans. It's basically just depressed about the Browns no matter what they do. Did you go to the Ravens when they moved? Did that become not.
what was your team in the interim before they came back?
I was always into fantasy, so we didn't replace the Browns. Ohio State just took on a more prominent role.
There you go.
Definitely not Baltimore with how the team was moved. You had Art Modell who, just basically was a snake and moved the team. They ended up being really good, which was just throwing extra salt on the wound. But no one people in Cleveland still consider the Ravens right up there with the Steelers in terms of rivals.
God, Ohio State, man. At that point in time, I wish that able to. Dude, I loved college football then. I watched so much.
And Ohio State is big in Cleveland. Even though Columbus is a couple hours away, Cleveland fans are big into Ohio State.
Especially at that time too. It was Eddie George was still there and shit, and then the Browns were leaving.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. You get it.
College. I mean, because I played the NCAA football video game constantly. That was I played that more than I played any video game in my entire any series. Obviously, each year was a different game, but I played that more than I played anything. Loved it.
Fun. Eddie George, so good.
I'm looking at the 1996 Ohio State roster now. David Boston, who my God, that dude was just yoked to the nth degree. Orlando Pace, one of the greatest linemen ever to play. Joe Germain, quarterback.
Funny Orlando Pace story. This is a long time ago. When I was a young kid, he was either just getting drafted or is going into the draft, whatever. I saw him at Tower City, which is the mall in downtown Cleveland, sitting by himself with a 20-piece McNugget using a different barbecue sauce for each nugget. So essentially just using the whole sauce per nugget.
I mean, 20 nuggets for him is like a
No,
mild
nothing.
appetizer.
At that point, it was like, whoa, to me. You know what I mean? I was young, but
I would imagine he
agree.
could put down a staggering amount of chicken nuggets.
Unreal amount.
Yeah. I bet there's some linemen out there in the league that are just, especially back in the day too, when you were able to be like just fat.
Right. Yeah. Now,
like those late 80s offensive linemen were just like, yo, put on as much. You weigh 380 today. Congratulations. Now you have to be lean.
It's so funny seeing those guys lose weight.
Oh yeah. Who did it now that's like thin?
I know you're not talking about Joe Thomas, but someone just did it that's like really thin. I know.
He did like a 30-day fast or something too.
He did a crazy
and like a
30-day fast.
Somebody really good, if I'm remembering correctly. I can't remember. The chat's gonna know shortly. Oh, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even like someone like just generally big people from back then, like Mike Golick. Oh yeah, Russell Okung.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
Mike Golick. Mike Golick is thin now.
Even like Joe Thomas, who was a monster of a man. I mean, he's still huge, but skinny now. It's just it's interesting seeing that.
All right, we've done enough on the NFL. We talked a little bit about OwnersBox. Now we have to talk a little bit about stacks. I'm gonna drag my heels a little bit. I'm not gonna say a word about who I have more than I have any other team, but I am gonna ask you now because it's really flat in terms of ownership today. The highest owned team in the aggregate is the Baltimore Orioles, 9.5%, barely to 10, maybe. When you look at all of the hitting stacks for today, who stands out the most to you?
I think I know who it is you like because I did catch like the end of your show.
It's worse now than it was earlier for me today.
I think you like Boston.
I do like Boston in an extreme way.
So they stand out in our top stack tool, but I think what stands out is what you said. There are a bunch of good offenses on this slate. There isn't much separating them. So, Boston is not getting the ownership that these other teams are getting. You look at the tools, Baltimore also is not getting the ownership they should. Same with the Dodgers. It's just flat across the board. I love slates like this because you can really make a rational case to play almost anyone you want.
I have all of the Boston. So I want to talk through it because I'm confused by it. The implied run total looks good. I've got it at 5. Kyle Bradish on the opposite side, certainly a talented pitcher. I have nothing negative to say about Bradish, but this line today, I want to make sure I get the exact line that's out there right now. I'm going to FanDuel Sportsbook. Line on this game, -118 for the Orioles, +100 for the Red Sox. By all accounts, a coin flip. You want to call it 52-48 Orioles? We can go that direction. The line's set at 10.5. Very limited juice to the under, but we're talking about a 10-run total. Why are the Red Sox 2.5% owned, the 16th most owned team on today's slate? Is it just salary? We have them 7th in top stack. I have them 3rd.
I think a lot of it is salary, yeah. It's salary, and I think also the fact that Baltimore fill more premium positions. Rutschman at short, Henderson at second. You don't really have that with Boston. They have a lot of outfielders you want to play. Turner and Casas are only first base. I think you're just seeing a situation where it's harder to stack them. So people are staying away a little bit. Makes them a great tournament stack.
I have 30% of Rafael Devers right now. He is 5% owned. Now, obviously, that is an extreme amount of ownership for an individual hitter. If it's Devers, I'm not like super upset that it's happening. Do I want to target Kyle Bradish like that? No, but 150x ISO to righties, 140 to lefties. Like, he doesn't get touched up or anything. I get it's not that kind of game on purpose, but I just don't understand why that ownership is as low as it is.
So just looking at their lineup, first, Turner is now only third base eligible. So second and third on DK. You can't play both of them. Their first 6 guys are 2 third basemen, a first baseman, and 3 outfielders.
Yeah.
It's just not an appealing stack on paper. But that doesn't mean like they're not going to be the top stack tonight. It just means that people don't really want to get there. And you have to kind of, make it work.
1-20 based on our top stack tool. They're the top scoring stack today. I'm very intrigued by that. So this is the team I'm getting to the most. I will I have 19% Boston Red Sox before I click go on this show. Now I'm not going to maintain that if they're 2.5% owned. It's an unnecessarily large stand. I could walk them back a little bit, still be miles over the field and feel good about it. But this is the team that I'm getting to the most. Who is the team you like the most today?
I think the two teams that I like the most are the Dodgers and Baltimore.
Sure.
The two teams in our top stack tool. Baltimore looks great. I actually think I like the Dodgers the best, given how, I don't want to say cheap, but more affordable they are with no bets in the lineup. Chris Taylor leading off, so just easier to get to. I think those two teams look really good. Atlanta's always up there. I think Boston and Toronto are right behind them. They both look very, very solid to me.
Sure.
A team that I like that's lower in our top stack tool, that's getting too much ownership, I'm surprised they're this low, is the Mets. Another team with premium positions up top. Alvarez hitting second, Lindor hitting cleanup. I like picking on Keuchel. He doesn't allow a ton of power, but he's not good. Doesn't strike anyone out, and he allows stolen bases. So the Mets even showed a little bit in Washington. They're willing to run. I have the Mets a little bit higher than our tools do. That said, they're getting a little bit too much love. I think it's mostly a case of what we said at the beginning. It's spread out. Those teams at the top look like the best teams. Yeah. And I think any one of them you can make a case for is the top team.
I'm with you there. I share your sentiment on the Mets where I think they do look fine, but they're a little bit overowned right now. And on a day like today, it's just so easy to find something that's mildly comparable to the Mets to just go a different direction. It's I like the Orioles a lot, and I'm going to be neutral to the field on the Orioles because I like this game environment, but I don't really see any need to go to anybody specifically. Chalk's not going to be a worry. The owner, if the Orioles are the most owned team today, the highest owned guy on the Orioles right now is Anthony Santander at 16%. That's a good amount, but nothing that's super crazy.
That's probably too high for him.
Oh, sure.
But he's the highest owned hitter in the stack. I totally agree with your point there. And more so, not the top guys, not the 1, 2, 3, 4 are going to be low owned.
Let's see. What do we have it at? We have 9% for Rutschman, 12 for Henderson, 16 Santander, 14 O'Hearn. I don't think that any of those numbers are wild. You got MPEs on two of those guys. One of them is a catcher. You're just naturally going to get some ownership there. And Tanner Houck on the opposite side, who's fine.
Not just a catcher, probably him and Will Smith are Real Muto's in there too, but him hitting 7th in that lineup just really makes him, a lower priority than those other two guys.
It really does. What am I filtering this table on? Oh, now I see. This is the wrong table. I was what in the world is happening? We got the super chat from Bug Boy. I've been bitching at Bug Boy all day today because he thinks that hitting number 9, Evan Carter, is a cash play today. And I let him know aggressively that is not the case. And he said, you go to your batter projections, sort by value, and let me know who's first, trying to build a cash lineup. Well, I'm going to let you know that's not the way that you should probably do it. But even if you want to do it that way, you upgrade when you realize that you have too much salary left over.
Carter would have been a cash game play if he were hitting towards the top of the lineup at 2K, but definitely not hitting 9th.
On an 11-game slate, you are never taking that kind of guy in that
9-hitter at home.
No, unless it's the wrong guy. Oh no, they accidentally marked Michael Harris at 2K. It's okay, right. He's a cash play.
He's not a normal 9-hitter either. He was the one I was thinking too. There really isn't any other 9-hitter that you could make a case for trying to get to.
No,
besides him, and even him, you're only getting there in a stack.
Not on this slate, that's for sure.
No,
so I'm going to look.
Definitely not on this slate.
I have him. Where is he hiding? Is his name Carter? Carter. Where's he hiding here? It's on a point per dollar basis, he's going to rank really high. His implied ownership for me is 3.5%, and he's 5% owned. So I'm not seeing anything that I'm super worried about. Here's the problem. If you want to build your cash lineup like that, where you start with value and you work your way in, the value hitters that you're going to get in there are going to leave you $15,000 in salary when you're done. And then you've got to start upgrading those guys and spending your salary. You can't be going to that 9-hole hitter when you have guys that are going to project for like close to 5, like an extra plate appearance and a half by hitting higher in the order and by projecting as a better hitter in general.
Right. Like Carter, it's literally only even a thought because he's 2K, but he's no longer a thought hitting ninth.
No. Like I said it earlier today, 15% owned Bay hitting leadoff for the Pirates against Bryce Elder. Outfield eligibility, he's $1,000 more expensive than him, but he is infinitely more likely to be in a cash lineup than the 9 hitter for the Rangers.
He looks like one of the best value hitters on the slate.
Yep. That's how valuable hitting first. I have him projected for 4.7 plate appearances. I have Carter projected for 3.3. We're talking about a plate appearance and a half. We're talking like a 3.5 fantasy point difference just by default, not even factoring in skill set.
Right.
And like, it doesn't make Evan Carter a bad play or anything like that. He's just not a cash play.
He's not a good play today. Like, there's never. I
don't mind using him in a GPP as a, a 2K guy in a Ranger stack, but like, there's no need to get him
in a Ranger stack. Definitely.
Yeah.
But like, I will never, and maybe I'm wrong here, I'll almost never play a 9-hole hitter unless he's part of the stack or like a 2K catcher.
Yeah, exactly. We're on the same. Yeah, I agree with you. Here, I said no chances of 3.5 point difference. So,
oh my God,
right now, I have him projected for 6.3 fantasy points and in 3.3 plate appearances. So we're talking about 2 fantasy points per plate appearance for him personally. If I give him an extra plate appearance and a half, that's 3 fantasy points.
We don't know.
That's just, if it's 6.3 and 3.3, then if I take him all the way up to 4.8 plate appearances, it's going to be an extra 3 fantasy points.
Yeah.
You lose like a little over a tenth of a plate appearance per spot in the order. So if you got the first guy, like I've got Semien at 4.6, Seager at 4.5, Lowe at 4.3, 4.1, 3.9, 3.8, 3.6, 3.4, 3.3. He's kind of come down by a little bit more than a tenth of a plate appearance for every spot in the order.
So, like, also just taking it a step farther, which isn't even needed here, but just to do it, like, Bay's on the road hitting leadoff. Carter's at home hitting ninth. Houston's also, like, a huge favorite in this game. And I have a hard time seeing, like, Houston batting in the ninth if they also scored a bunch of runs. Like, I don't see this game being a shootout where Oakland is scoring with Texas. So you're probably losing an at-bat. It's definitely not a cash game play. Sure, in tournaments, if you're stacking Texas or if you have 2K left, there's too much opportunity cost for me to want to prioritize him. But in tournaments as a 2K one-off, sure.
3.3 plate appearances just because he's hitting ninth? What do you mean just because? How else am I going to land on that?
He's literally in the worst lineup spot you can get. Big favorite hitting ninth at home.
Let's see. In the data that I have on here right now, what do 9 hitters average in plate appearances per game? 3.7 plate appearances per game in the 9-hole is the average in baseball. And it's going to be lower for home teams because they don't necessarily bat in the 9th. So, yeah, it's not tricky. I hope he's good. I don't know if you're like dating him or whatever, but I hope it goes well for him today.
I mean, it's definitely a situation where it's just like the hot young prospect getting called up.
Faux show.
He's hitting ninth at home. So,
what other stacks do you have your eye on? Or maybe we could flip this. Anybody that's getting ownership that you're just like, why is that guy getting ownership?
Not really. I mean, as far as teams getting love, no. I mean, the Yankees are overowned, probably the most overowned team in our tools, but I get why they're getting love. Reyes not very good. They've got power in their lineup. The one team besides Houston, I guess it stands out from an underowned basis, is Philly. They're also facing a good pitcher in Yuri Perez. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think it's a slate for it. The Philly's always a team that can go off. Very, very, very potent top of their lineup.
I don't have nearly as much as I had this morning. I was getting to them at they were 2% owned and I had 6% and I was pumped, but I don't have it any longer. Maybe I'll have it when I click run here. I'm about to do my final update now that we have everything but the Giants lineup. But yeah, I think Philly's pretty sneaky today.
Yeah, they look like. I mean, they're higher they're right above the Mets in our top stack tool. So that just tells you the difference in the team's, upside potential. Yeah. Milwaukee doesn't look awful against Severino. There really is no team though that I'm looking at. I'm like, wow, this team's getting too much love, or this team's not getting enough love. I think the one team that I'm probably afraid I'm not getting more of is Atlanta, because they're Atlanta.
I feel like that for them, no matter where I have Atlanta, like if I have them, I hate that I do, because I just feel like today is going to be the day that they don't do what I think they should do. And when I don't have them, it's like, well, I should have them. They're the best team.
Yeah, you don't.
I don't have them today
that often in baseball either, where they're like, you could always make the case every day. It's baseball. They could fail. Yeah. They don't fail that much.
No, they're so good. They're so good. They're going to end up losing their first round series in the playoffs in some stupid way. Strider's going to go back to getting bombed again like he did yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever that was.
I'm not like totally sold on the front end of their pitching staff. I think they're very good, Strider and Fried. I don't think they're like impervious to losing, but I don't think they're going to lose, because I think their offense will carry them, even if they have, a rough start or two, because I think this offense is built to hit good pitching too. They're just so good.
I respond to Bug Boy. I was going to type this, but it's easier to just say it out loud. Bug Boy, you also have to factor in that people get pinch hit for, particularly 9-hole hitters. So it's not just if the average is 3.7, he should be 3.7 in the 9-hole. He's hitting at home, so potentially losing the 9th inning, a game that they're favored in. So probably likely that he's not going to hit in the 9th inning. And there's more than likely that he can be pinch hit for, which is going to bring down everybody generally has some pinch hit risk, but certainly more so at the bottom of the order than anything else. So you can't just look at it and project somebody like that. You also have to factor in the case that people do get pinch hit for.
I will say the one guy you mentioned as a counter, Bay, does have some pinch hit risk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we're talking about, that was just my example of like a leadoff guy versus a 9-hole guy. You're never running that down. Like you have to be so bad in the leadoff spot and so good in the 9-hole to offset just.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
It won't happen.
No, it won't. All right. So let's generate some lineups. We'll get this running in the back. So let's think about some other teams that we should touch on. Oh wow, I have Toronto stats. Didn't realize that. Okay, yeah, let's talk Toronto. I have about.
I like the one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Let's talk Toronto. I have 15 stacks of them. I'm a little shy of 2xing the field on Toronto. Don't mind that at all.
They're a lot easier to stack now that Bell's hurt, or the Belt's hurt. Excuse me. Just because they don't have 2 first basemen. Biggio hitting 5th. He's, hasn't been great for them. But he's in good form right now in the 5-hole, dual eligibility. He looks just like Bay to me. I like Bay slightly more from like a cash game perspective, but Biggio is similar. Both have second base outfield eligibility. Biggio's hitting 5th in a better lineup than Pittsburgh. So those two guys are similar to me. I think they're both 2 of the better plays on the slate. The Toronto stack looks good. Marsh isn't an awful pitcher, but he gives up a ton of power. Toronto's got slate winning upside here.
I hope you're right. We have them 4th in top stack. I have them 4th in top stack. I'm in lockstep with us. And it's not like I have a ton of them. The most I have of anybody is Springer at 12%, but I'm at least wanting to get to the field. Who am I over on that okay, so I'm doubling up on Vlad, which I clearly don't mind at all.
I was just going to say, going back a second, you asked me like what team I think is getting too much love. And the Bat also likes this team a lot. The Rangers. I get it, especially the top of this lineup, Seager and Simeon. I'm never going to argue with anyone who wants to get there.
What about the bottom of the lineup, particularly the 9-hitter?
No Adolis Garcia, which is hence why they called up Carter. Blackburn's not great, but he's not bad either. I don't really get Texas here. I don't understand why they're above Boston in our top stack duel. I don't understand why they're getting 3 times as much love as Boston. They're the second highest owned team on the slate. What am I missing?
I have 3.8%, so less than half the field. I don't know. I'm not super interested. I don't really like targeting against Blackburn. He's been so much better as of late than what he used to be. They're expensive. I don't mind getting to Texas, Semi, and see. The top of the order obviously has a ton of power. But if everybody's already there, today is just that kind of slate that I'm not that interested in.
They're coming in with the same ownership as the Dodgers. I like the Dodgers more.
I don't really have either of them, but I definitely like the Dodgers more than I like the Rangers.
And it doesn't really matter because Texas could score 20 runs at home, but they do get the added bump of being on the road, the Dodgers do, as opposed to Texas at home.
Man, I'm really... All right, so batting ninth on the year. What do we... I don't want it per league. Why would I ever want that? MLB, good. Who cares about league separations nowadays? 15796 divided by 5138. That can't be right. Am I calculating that incorrectly? Okay. If you go to FanGraphs right now, 15,796 plate appearances to 9-hole hitters this season in 5,138 games. They're averaging 3.1 plate appearances per game.
I bet you that's high, even higher. I bet you that would be not a lot lower, but drop a decimal point or two if you take out Atlanta.
Not only that, if I just put it to home, it's going to go down.
Oh, yeah.
So if I add batting ninth at home, we have 7,702 plate appearances in 25,703 games, 2.99 plate appearances per game for home team 9-hole hitters. Yeah, I'm wrong.
If this is like, there's oftentimes like 9-hole hitters, like Tim LeCastro's a 9-hole hitter, 2K. I actually think he's a better play than Evan Carter. Like, he's not good, but we know if he gets on base, he'll run. I think he's in a better spot facing Keuchel. There's nothing about Carter besides that, like, he's the shiny new toy that, like,
right.
We're even can't believe we're still talking about him.
Same. Trust me. Same across the board.
He's definitely homering tonight now.
Oh, no doubt. Anytime I do this kind of shit, it gets destroyed. It never fails. Ever. Never fails.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, talking about Severino, are you worried about weather at all?
Not really. I think that's just going to... Worst case scenario is going to be a late start. If they're looking at it early, they're just going to sit it out a little bit. He won't homer? Man, if you don't think he's going to homer... like, obviously you don't think anybody's really going to homer, but if you don't think he's going to homer, what are we doing here?
If you're playing the 9-hole hitter in a one-off, you have to at least think he's going to hit a solo bomb, right? Because there's no other reason. There's because 9-hole hitters can only really do well if they're in a stack besides that. I mean, they're in such a small avenue for them to do well. So I just don't see it.
How much time do we have? All right, 6:55. Okay, I could rerun this. I don't trust what I just ran. I feel like I didn't save my sheet before I did it. It didn't really change anything, so I feel comfortable running it one last time. But not much is changing either direction. Feeling good here.
Ultimately, I guess this will be the last thing I say on it. The opportunity cost, there's only 3 outfield spots, and there's a lot of good outfielders to play. So that's I guess my last take.
I mean, when push comes to shove, it's this. He's an awful cash game play. Yes. No disagreement. There's no other stance to take. His cash ownership, you can go check this after everything starts, will be minuscule.
We'll be like, oh no, you want to know why else? Because everything's in context of the slate, right? It's not even that there's a 13K Strider and a 12K Cole you want to play. Yeah. There isn't even a pitcher over 10K that people are playing. So Bay at 3K is like just ultimately the better play. Kevin Biggio, there's a ton of them.
Yep. Totally agree. No, but nobody's getting there.
No.
Nobody. And if you think you've got an eye on like an actual cash game play, you're playing cash wrong.
Yeah, you don't. You don't.
All right. So we've got like 8 minutes or so before lock is coming. Let's just take some questions. Hit us up in chat. We got a couple minutes yet while everything's running to get the good stuff in. We got plenty of time, But yeah, looks. Who just said it? Norman Ross in chat just said Brewers Yankees expected to start at 7:20. So they've already pushed first pitch by 15 minutes.
Yeah, it looks like
which makes me feel better. If they're already postponing it, then I don't care about the weather at all, because then I don't think that this is a threat for postponement. So we're just going to wait until we're good to go.
That's only
Gary
like a 10-minute
Famoso.
delay
Should
also.
we play Evan Carter in cash? Thanks, Gary. Thoughts on the Nats from our boy Jorge? I'm neutral to the field. Another completely reasonable value stack. Park plays up well. I'm not all that big of a Sheehan guy, so I don't mind the Nats, but they're certainly just a team today.
I have a hard time seeing a slate in which the Nats are the top scoring team, like hitting home runs, etc. Yeah. Sheehan's not a guy I'm afraid of, but it's not for me on this slate.
Hog Wired, is today a good day for a 0 stack lineup? There is never a good day for that. Don't do that.
Agree with Josh.
Don't do that. That may be the path to the highest upside lineup you can get to.
Well, sure.
But removing your correlation is just going to make your life harder.
You're never going to hit it. Like the ultimate upside lineup, like on any given night, the perfect lineup will oftentimes be not necessarily all one-offs, but maybe 4 or 5 different teams mixed in there. But
yeah, it's a 5-1. It's like 5 one-offs and maybe like one overlap of guys that also had good games in blowouts. But yeah, don't do that.
No, you're never going to be able to do it.
All right, let's see what else we got. Brett. I clicked the wrong one. That was Malakar. Best single entry stack. Honestly, today it's just sort of like whatever you want to get to. I know that's like a cop-out answer, but there's no. I mean, I expect the Orioles to be the highest owned team in single entry situations, but I don't really have much of a preference at that point in time. I think you can kind of make whatever you want work today because there's just no aggressive chalk to worry about.
I think you can look at it from a couple different ways, as you kind of mentioned, from the highest probability, Baltimore, but they're going to be the highest owned. From the most leverage, Boston, but they're not the highest probability. And then any of those other teams in between there, you kind of get a mix of both. The Dodgers, the Jays, the Rangers too, and then the Braves. Those are like the 6 teams I think that you want to focus on.
David Castillo, anyone getting Altuve as a one-off, or is that not smart because he's the first batter? I don't know if that's a callback to what we were just doing, but if you want to play Jose Altuve today as a one-off, by all means do that. He's always available as a one-off. I would never tell anybody not to do that.
I have a lineup with him as a one-off.
When you're good, you are always a one-off. No matter the situation, no matter who you're playing, any of that stuff, it doesn't matter. Always available. Okay. So we got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to go ahead and sort through my final stuff here. I am going to end up with the Red Sox as my most exposed team. Blue Jays are now in the 2 spot. Then I've got a little bit of Guardians, Royals, and Orioles, but I got to start taking away. I don't like having. It's weird. I don't think that I should do this, but it's just one of those personal things that I have to do. If I have a team less than 5 stacks, I negate them. I will remove them as a stack and just add more back in until I get everybody ahead of 5. It's just a mental thing. Like I don't want one lineup of one stack.
I get that.
Because it's harder for me to keep track of the teams I have and the teams I don't have.
I
think it's dumb. Like it's definitely ruining. It's definitely probably worsening my EV microscopically. But
I agree with that also. But there's more to this than just that. There's the aspect of enjoying what you do, etc.
Yes,
can't really put a price on.
Yeah, I have right now. If I don't make any changes, I have 8 teams with 4 or less stacks. I just don't want that. Yeah, I basically have a little bit of everybody today, and that's not usually what I'm looking for.
And it makes sense, because if that team goes off, the likelihood that one of your 4 lineups or 3, whatever you have of that team, being the nuts is so low. It's just so low. At that point, you're like a 3 and you entered 3 lineups into the tournament. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I didn't actually go to 5 today. I had 3 teams at 4, and I didn't want to start scooping up individual teams at 4. So we're going to go with a couple extra teams. But I have more teams today than I actually want to have. So let's upload those, and then I'll let everybody know what I've got. And then we're going to get out of here because we're already up to 7:02. Anything that you want to say that you haven't gotten a chance to say? I do talk.
It's just the dichotomy of this slate compared to like last week when Atlanta was in Coors is funny.
Yeah.
You don't really see that in other sports.
All right. I have 35 Red Sox stacks. I'm in for it today, man. If they go, it's all the monies for me. It's too much, probably. Maybe I click a button here and take one or two more away. Let's see. The most I have of anybody is 27% Devers. I have 23% Verdugo. I understand that's a big stand for baseball. I don't mind that being the first and second hitters. After that, the bottom of the order, I'm only getting to about 10% of these guys. So not as crazy for the ultra trash that doesn't exist at the bottom. But if I'm going to be heavy on anybody, Verdugo and Devers certainly works for me.
And you certainly want some of that bottom because you need the bottom to do at least okay to get those guys at top more at bats.
Malachi, never. I never do the opposite of my model. I would never, ever, ever do that. Okay, so 35 Red Sox stacks, 21 Giants stacks, which I got to be honest, I hate it. I hate getting to the Giants just in general, but I really hate them today because of the lefty tie block. A lot of pinch hit risk in this one. I got a little bit of time. I might walk that back a little bit just because I don't want to have a lot of the Giants today.
I get that. I don't either, but I do think they fall in the mix of like sneaky stack. I see our ownership is right in line with the top stack percentage, but I just don't think many people are going to go there.
No, and I'm not walking them back to like, no, I'm still 2Xing the field, but I'm just going to take a little bit of the edge off of that one. It's
funny. This is kind of what I was saying about Coors. If you had this matchup in Coors, San Francisco would be the highest owned team on the slate by far.
Okay, so we got the Giants as one of my more exposed teams. I did walk it back a little bit, but they're still there. Guardians, Royals, Orioles. Those are all of the teams that I have at least 10 stacks of.
Our tools like Cleveland more than I thought they would.
I had a lot yesterday too. So I guess the teams that will win me the most money are likely the Royals and the Red Sox, just because they are the least owned teams.
Yeah, I get
That's all I got. And then I guess I ended up with 41% Kyle Harrison and, oh God, 38% Luis Severino. So if anybody wants to know what's going to happen today, Severino is going to be awful. Kyle Harrison is going to be awful. Evan Carter is going to homer. And I think I missed one other thing that I'm going to jinx.
Somehow, it's not even possible, but somehow Evan Carter is going to homer against Harrison.
Well, folks, that's going to do it. Thanks for joining us here. Good luck tonight. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your weekend. Have some fun. NFL Sunday coming up. Don't forget to sign up at OwnersBox. If you're not doing that, you are leaving money on the table for yourself. And that's the whole point of this. So go check it out. Matt, have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. This was fun. Everybody, we're out of here. Peace.